Hi, I'm Steve Towns, editor of Government Technology Magazine. New York State officials and IT industry leaders met in Albany to discuss ways of cutting energy consumption and reducing carbon emissions. In April, New York Governor Eliot Spitzer announced his 15 by 15 initiative, which aims to cut state electricity consumption 15% by the year 2015. In a Green IT Summit held in conjunction with Government Technology Conference, a standing room only crowd grappled with what the governor's initiative means to state government. Pete Granis, commissioner of the New York Department of Environmental Conservation, said tackling climate change is an enormous undertaking, but there's no alternative.
Today, after decades marked by inattention and inaction, we are witnessing a green revolution, a social, economic, and governmental movement to stem the tide of this global crisis, and not a moment too soon. We have a lot of work to do, but government must lead the way.
Granis said the state will attack climate change on several fronts, including reducing the amount of energy consumed by IT infrastructure, making greater use of green building technology, and developing new sources of sustainable energy.
This year, 160 million PCs will be disposed of worldwide. 550 million cell phones will be replaced. We're told only about 5 to 10% will be reused. We know what's in this waste. Plastic, lead, cadmium, mercury, chromium. It's toxic and it's unsustainable.
New York CIO Melody Mayberry Stewart said energy awareness must become second nature to state IT professionals.
Being green can no longer be an afterthought. It must become a priority that is driven by each of you who are here this morning. As we develop IT strategies in our individual agencies or collaboratively become green together, we must add this to the mix in terms of our strategic planning, project management, performance metrics, or enterprise architecture.
With costs for powering and cooling large data centers rapidly rising, solving these issues has become a key priority.
Each one of these stacks, starting at the left going to the right, is a new generation of technology we introduce. Blue is how much is benefited from just making the chip smaller, which you're all familiar with. The funny thing is, back in the days of 180 nanometer technology, which is about 10 years ago, about 90 to 95% of the benefit going generation to generation from prior to present was basically you made it smaller and it worked better. You didn't have to do a huge amount of innovation. The sad thing is we're sitting at 45 nanometer now and we're going to 32, and you'll notice almost no advantage comes from making chips smaller. So when somebody jumps up and down to make you feel better and says, Moore's Law continues, the answer is Moore's Law doesn't mean a damn thing in this business anymore. It means that basically the chip will get cheaper and work worse, not better. For 40 years, it worked better and was cheaper. Now it gets worse. In fact, it will catch fire if you just follow Moore's Law without innovating. This is not a small problem. It is an industry problem.
A technology silver bullet may not be on the horizon, but a holistic approach can help control runaway power consumption.
You need to start all the way with the atoms and devices, go out to the devices themselves, the circuits, the cores, the chips, system architecture, the system assets, and the overall system software. And if you tackle all of those at the same time, you can make a big difference. If you try to just focus on one of them, you're going to be a nit. And we can't afford nits because we haven't got time for nits. This actually is a crisis.
After the event, Deputy CIO Mike Middleman said the state already has taken several steps to improve energy efficiency. It added language to its procurement contracts to demand that desktop IT equipment meet environmental standards. It also added language that requires IT vendors to take back and properly dispose of old equipment when it reaches the end of its life cycle. There's plenty of low-hanging fruit for environmental improvement, but state officials will confront difficult policy challenges as they broaden their conservation efforts.
What if you have competitors on whatever the hardware is that one is more expensive than the other, but it's far more green? What do we do then?
Oracle's Aldona Valicenti, herself a former state CIO, said rising energy costs give governments plenty of incentive to cut power consumption and to investigate telework options that keep commuters off the road.
State is usually the single largest employer, the state government. than any other employer in
Yeah.
the state. So if they set a good example, now there's this whole trust issue and the abuse issue.
Right.
Oh, they're going to abuse the system. Oh, we can't trust the workers. But I think if there's a mindset to really look at what are the performance metrics, what can we measure, do we need to have this pre-conversation, post-conversation, whatever, I think you can do it.
Reporting from Albany, New York, for GTTV, I'm Steve Towns.